Hello there. So the goal of this video is to go over the existing talent builds for Balanced Druid on beta after a couple changes have gone in. I made a previous video going over the basics of the class tree as well as the spec tree. The spec tree's had a few changes since I made that video, but if you want a more in-depth explanation of all the things inside of the trees, you should definitely go check that out. So to start off, I want to go over a couple talents that are in every single build that are pretty much required on all Balanced Druid trees. So the first of those is going to be Denizens of the Dream and Friend of the Fae. This is just a really high uptime damage buff that just has a lot of value and is run in every single build no matter what. It's just too good to not take. The second thing that every single build runs is Shooting Stars, Solstice, Orbit Breaker, and Stellar Flare. This combination gives you more Shooting Stars procs because Stellar Flare now procs are Shooting Stars, and so we just get a lot of Astral Power generation from Orbit Breaker and the free moons coming down. The next thing that every single build runs is Celestial Alignment, of course, our biggest cooldown, and Arcanic Pulsar. It just has way more value in all situations than Orbital Strike. Orbital Strike is cool in concept, but it's just way too weak to ever be considered. In addition to Pulsar, we're always running some form of this choice node, either Incarnation or Convoke the Spirits. Convoke the Spirits is actually only run in pure single target, and all other builds you run Incarnation. But what you always run in every single build is the talent below Elun's Guidance, which just buffs the choice node, and it's just extremely good. It makes your Convoke, it's the legendary power from Shadowlands, it makes your Convoke cast a full moon every other Convoke, and alternatively, it just reduces the astral power cost of Star Surge and Starfall while you're inside of your Celestial Alignment. And the last thing we run in every single build is over here, Rattle the Stars. Rattle the Stars is kind of the core thing Druid is playing around right now. You want to keep 2 stacks up at all times and deal massive damage. I'll talk about this more when I get to the rotation section of the video. So that's all the things that every single talent build will run. Now getting into the pure single target side of things, what's unique to this tree, it's the only tree where we're running New Moon instead of Fury of Elune, because New Moon only really has good value in single target. It's more astral power generation, but the damage Fury of Elune does in AoE is too good, so you only run it in pure single target. Power of Goldrin is taken in pure single target, it's just a big damage gain. It's the only build where we put 2 points in Balance of All Things. The crit is very strong on single target. What's interesting is, despite Soul of the Forest not having a lot of value in single target, because we're passing up Mushrooms and we're passing up Ethereal Kindling, we have extra points to spare, so despite it being a very small power gain, it is some power gain that is worth putting a point into. Additionally, like I said before, this is the only build where you actually run Convoke the Spirits on pure single target. Alright, so moving on from the pure single target build, we have the AoE Burst DPS build. So this is the build that you run on a general raid fight that has some ad spawns, but it's not a massive cleave fight for the entire time. So the biggest difference between this build and the single target build is that we're dropping Astral Communion, Astral Smolder, Soul of the Forest, and we're taking 1 point of Balance of All Things. All these abilities give us very slight gains of damage in single target, but they're generally just, there's other points we can put into that give us big value in AoE. So the biggest single pickup we can do, which is only 2 talent points, is adding Wild Mushroom and Fungal Growth to ourselves. These 2 abilities give you the 3 charges of mushrooms that deal a lot of nature damage, as well as generate a ton of astral power. When ads spawn and you throw these out, get a big burst of AP coming in, you deal big damage. The next thing that we really do in this build is we swapped off of Convoke the Spirits into Incarnation, as well as Elun's Guidance below, now making our spenders cheaper. Convoke the Spirits is a good ability, but it really just doesn't gain any value in AoE at all, and cheaper spenders does gain value because Starfall is an amazing spender. The other thing we allocate our points to is Ethereal Kindling. If these ads that are spawning are living for a reasonable period of time, you don't want to refresh your dots on them, so this just allows you to extend the duration of your dots through pressing Starfall, which obviously we're going to be pressing in AoE. The final thing on this is we have switched away from New Moon into Fear of Elune, because Fear of Elune just deals big dam. And that is really the main differences between the single target build and the AoE build for most raid fights that have ad spawn, but it's not clear for the entire time. And moving on from that, we're going to be talking about a sustained mass AoE build. So this is what you would run in Mythic Plus if you were trying to optimize for pure AoE damage, as well as a cancel style fight with multiple bosses. So this is the multi-target sustained AoE build. The biggest differences between this build and the burst AoE build is we're dropping Power of Goldrin for Soul of the Forest. This is really just dropping pure single target damage gain for pure AoE damage gain. The main value of Soul of the Forest is the additional damage on Starfire's Cleave, and if there's enough targets that are stacked up for a long enough period of time, this will outperform Power of Goldrin. The other difference is we are dropping Balance of All Things to run Astral Smolder. So the reason you're doing this is because Soul of the Forest is causing your Starfires to deal more damage, and when a Starfire crits, it'll actually AoE apply Astral Smolder. And Astral Smolder actually works with Waning Twilight to apply an 8% AoE damage increase onto the enemies whenever you crit with a Starfire. Because in AoE, the only dots we have that we can apply to a lot of targets are mushrooms to run a cooldown. This Astral Smolder gives you actually a fairly decent uptime on Waning Twilight, which gives you a lot of AoE damage. So continuing after the standard sustained AoE build, this is a version of the build which is very similar, which is running both trees and solar beam. This is the build recommended on the Google document that I was pulling from the Discord. In my opinion, I have a different build, which I'll show just after this, which is slightly different. But the core idea of this build is we're effectively giving up Waning Twilight and Astral Smolder damage to directly pick up Force of Nature, the second point in Umbral Embrace, and a point in Solar Beam. Other than that, the build is exactly the same. You're just giving up a large amount of damage by dropping Waning Twilight. So moving on from this build, this is the build that I came up with for running in Mythic Plus. It's extremely similar to the previous build, except I'm dropping Force of Nature and 1 point out of Ethereal Kindling in order to pick up 2 points into Waning Twilight. And of course, we still have to take Umbral Embrace and Solar Beam. I think Solar Beam is very required in Mythic Plus. I think you could probably get away without Force of Nature. And I'm still picking up that point in Astral Smolder so that I can get the Waning Twilight procs to deal additional damage. The third point that I'm giving up here is Stellar Flare. As I talked about before, Stellar Flare is kind of mandatory in all content just because it's 100% uptime on Waning Twilight. But I feel like in the right Mythic Dungeon and Fortified Week, you could get away without it. And it just gives you that extra Waning Twilight proc damage in AoE, which I think could be interesting in Mythic Plus. Of course, what build remains to be optimal in Mythic Plus is to be seen, but this is just my own creation for you to think about. And yeah, that wraps it up pretty much. These are all the balanced Druid builds going around right now in beta that I've played around with. If there's any interesting combinations that I haven't talked about, please let me know. The rest of this video is going to be a sample single target and sample AOE rotation using these builds. So if you're interested in that, keep watching. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. See you later. This is the single target rotation part of the video. I am running the pure single target talent build with Convoke the Spirits, and I'm going to be doing my opener on this target dummy. Just on the left side of my screen, you can see the cast I'm using. So the first thing is you enter into Solar Eclipse, then you set up all your multi-dots, including Stellar Flare, and then you fire off your first Starfall. You fire off your Star Surges in rapid succession, using your tier set procs to get free Star Surges, spending down your Moon Charges. We're activating Celestial Alignment and just getting as many Star Surges off as physically possible. The exact buttons I'm pressing are on the left side of the screen, but the important things to do are keep up your dots, spend as many Star Surges as possible, keep entering into Solar Eclipse, never be outside of an Eclipse. Make sure when you cast Convoke the Spirits you have low astral power, because if you get a full moon proc you do not want to be overcapping. Yeah, that's really just the main things in single target. It's also very important to spend your moons when you can, and try not to overcap astral power as much as possible. Alright, and the next section of the video I will be doing the AOE rotation. This is the AOE rotation section of the video. So to start things off, I'm going to be entering into Lunar Eclipse primarily. The first thing I'm going to do is get into my Eclipse and then set up all my multi-dots. This is kind of a spread AoE situation, but you would still do the same thing with setting up your multi-dots in stack groups. You would definitely just cast a lot less, Sunfires. And once my dots are set up, I'm immediately entering into my Incarnation and spamming out Starfalls as fast as possible, pressing all of my cooldowns to generate astral power, sending my mushrooms onto the biggest stack of enemies. I actually think sending all your mushrooms at the start is incorrect like I did here. You would want to spread them out to maximize the dot damage, so that's definitely an optimization I could have made. But yeah, you're really just weaving in Starfires in between your Starfalls, so double Starfire, then Starfall, then double Starfire, then Starfall. You never have to refresh your dots because you have permanent uptime with Ethereal Kindling. And yeah, that's kind of just how the rotation goes. You press your cooldowns as they come up, you keep Starfall, you keep Rattle the Stars rolling, keep getting procs of Arcanic Pulsar, and you're just dealing lots of damage. I'll let the rest of the clip play out. I do about another 30 seconds or so of DPS. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I will be producing more guide content, especially as things get updated and things get changed. And yeah, see you later. Have a great day.